Where are the damn things? Awesome. Everybody makes it look so easy. Yeah, I've got the live stream up on my laptop just so I can interact in the comments just in case. Yeah. Hello. Danielle Smith. Yep. Just got across my living room. Okay. Let's see here. So, uh, here. So the same government that cut 49 million from AISH in the budget for 2025 is the same government whose minister sits in a family that founded a homelessness charity, whose premier has or was found by the ethics commissioner to have breached the Conflicts of Interest Act, whose heritage fund grew 383 million in one quarter, and whose homelessness funding was cut 4 million in the same year as the AISH cut. Oh yeah. So today we're going to talk through the public record on Minister Jason Nixon and Premier Danielle Smith, not as opinion, but as documented public record, and we connect their decisions to the housing crisis and the financial reality facing 19,000 disabled Albertans in this province. So each fact today is sourced. And we have the notes and the links if anybody ever needs them. Yes, I was up until 5:30 this morning doing all that. So That covers it for the appeal process. Yeah, because he hasn't or the government hasn't released what kind of people are going to be the ones making the decisions. There were some job postings that were on the Alberta website, and they were just looking for any individual that was interested in the position. You didn't need medical background. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're missing any. I'll just double check my list. Oh, I agree totally that I'm going to be out there on the streets handing out cards, making sure that people have access to all of the research and the information that can help strengthen their voices. Yeah. Sure. So just the basics for right now. Who is Minister Nixon? So full name, Jason John Nixon. He was born May 26th, 1980 in Calgary. His current title is the Minister of Assisted Living and Social Services. He was sworn in May 16th, 2025. His riding is the Rimbey Rocky Mountain House and Sundry, elected 2015, 2019, and 2023. And then his party is the United Conservative Party, formerly Wild Rose. Family background for him and the mustard seed connection. His father, Pat Nixon, founded the mustard seed. Brother Jeremy Nixon is the MLA for Calgary Klein. So, and they are the first two brothers ever to sit in the Alberta legislature simultaneously. And his Jason Nixon's wife, Tiffany, works for a pipeline company. Yeah, just why this matters. Nixon's family is founded to Alberta's homelessness response infrastructure. His father literally founded the mustard seed, so one of Alberta's largest homelessness shelters and service providers. The minister responsible for AISH is the son of a homelessness sector founder. We're not drawing conclusions, we're stating the public record. So previous portfolios for this individual, Minister of Environment and Parks from 2019 to 2022. He was the Minister of Finance, or acting Minister of Finance, Government House Leader, and the Minister of Seniors, Community, and Social Services from 2023 to 2025. And now he's responsible for the AISH and ADAP effective for 79,000 severely disabled Albertans. Okay. I can hear you coming through Zoom, but not through YouTube. Yeah. Sure. All right. So the Nixon public record. Let's see here. That for a minute. The BC Human Rights Tribunal from 2020 or from 2005 to 2008. Nixon owned Nixon Safety Consulting, workplace safety firm in BC and Alberta. A 25-year-old mother of three named Corey Harrison was hired as safety officer on a Kelowna condo project. She reported being repeatedly sexually harassed by the lead contractor's project manager. After she reported the harassment to both the contractor and to Nixon, Nixon fired her on December 20th, 2005. December 2008, BC Human Rights Tribunal adjudicator Kurt Neunenfelt ruled that his company discriminated against Harrison. The tribunal found that Nixon's company terminated her employment at the urging of the developer after she complained. Nixon's response in 2017 at the Alberta legislature was, "I deeply regret some of the decisions that were made by myself and my organization while handling that human resources issue."
Okay. What does that say to you?
That he has very concerning priorities, very concerning priorities.
Right. And where do you think that priority lies?
Definitely not with the people that he's supposed to be responsible for.
Right. Right. So we have a dad. Can you hear me at all coming through YouTube? Can you check? I just want
Yep, I can hear you now through
Okay,
YouTube.
fabulous, fabulous. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back up and running. We are going to take no more time, and we are going to just kick the crap out of this now. So, it should be noted that Jason Nixon's father, Pat, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems, started the mustard seed from a very noble intent. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was found, or he was homeless when he was a young adult, or at least a teenager, I would assume, and then ended up incarcerated in Calgary. And after he came out, he found religion and founded the Mustard Seed.
Right, and that to me seems like a noble venture, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's all on the Wikipedia page for the Nixon family.
right, and so in a sense, he set a legacy, didn't he?
Yes.
You know, or he really did. I think that the mustard seed, as far as I can remember, did good work. Um, so, sorry, I'm just cleaning up here. So we can say that that is a good thing. That was a good thing for the people of Calgary. And I think I talked to some people who may have lived there for a time, and they had a positive response. They had a positive experience, and although it was what it was, and it was sort of meager and very humble, it served its purpose, I suppose. When you add some form of family to the mix, some sort of nepotism, if you will, that where the family members do not necessarily share the same struggles that their father would have experienced in his life, some of those really moments that, although so difficult, are so meaningful to understanding your own existence, you can fall into some problems. I think, in a way, like him or hate him, Donald Trump kind of shares a little bit of that. I mean, it's funny. he said he only got a $2 million loan from his dad. Well, I'll tell you what, back in whatever year that was, 80 something, if anybody would have given me $2 million loan to start my music career, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I would be in Los Angeles. I would be probably living in Beverly Hills, and everything in my life would be okay. So I don't think it's fair for a guy to say, I only got $2 million, right? Toby Keith, the same thing. Toby Keith basically had his way bought into Nashville. He had investors that spent, again, a $2 million sum, and voila, all of a sudden, Toby Keith. There you go, right? So, we do deal with this very difficult paradigm in where a good idea starts out good and then ends up into hands that cannot feel into something the same way the proprietor, the primogenitor of that could, right? And I suppose that's why we're looking down the barrel of this gun. And speaking of guns, I think you have some information about Jason Nixon and his attachment with those, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, you're talking about the poaching?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of guns, yeah.
Yeah. So in 2009 to 2011, Nixon was part of a group who shot a deer on Allison Gentry's family property, the 61 ranch near Sermona, Alberta.
Right.
So, and it was near a no hunting sign.
Okay. Yep.
To which he pleaded guilty to poaching in June of 2011 and paid a $500 fine, which would be, chump change for somebody that is in that particular family at this point.
Yes.
And then November 6th, 2009, when Gentry attempted to photograph the men that were on her property, Nixon reached through her vehicle window to grab her camera. And then where was it here? He ended up making a quoted statement. Does anybody want to shoot this bee?
Right. And we're not talking about bee as the flying
No, not the
yellow
insect.
yellow black kind. Yeah.
No.
Well, there you go. There's a little bit of history, right? And so I'm curious, the people watching right now. Okay, there's nobody watching, so I won't ask that question.
It's all good.
Yeah. So, I mean, further to that, do we have any more information on Mr. Jason Nixon's dealings throughout his life and what that may comport with moving forward?
There was an incident in the May 9th, 2020 legislative session where Nixon was recorded on tape laughing regarding an incident, an insulin pump. So the NDP MLA was presenting concerns about 4,000 Albertans with type 1 diabetes who had just lost coverage under the insulin pump therapy program, a program the UCP had canceled. So 25 of the affected Albertans were in the public gallery at the time, and Nixon essentially denied laughing at them and said that he was sharing a private joke with colleagues. Well, I don't think, like, if that's the case that you were sharing a private joke, I get it, right? But there's a time and a place, right? And you're expected to be a professional. Like, it's not a sorority party, right?
Of course.
So, where is it here? He described MLA Janice Irwin's question about what was funny with Albertans losing insulin pump coverage as ridiculous.
As ridiculous, meaning that it was ridiculous to lose it? Or it was
that people were making a big deal out of it.
It was ridiculous to bitch about it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and this is the same person that has never been, expected to take any kind of accountability or responsibility for any of his actions.
Well, sure. I'm just surprised that a guy that eats, as well as he needs to, and probably a lot of sugary scones at high tea, doesn't have an insulin problem either. So that's quite interesting.
Well, he,
Um,
he seems to really enjoy using his father's work and his father's accomplishments as almost like a cover for his own being a good person, right? Or coming at everything from the right perspective, or seeing things the way that he should be seeing them, but that's not the case. You can only cling to somebody's coattails for so long before your actual personality starts to shine through.
right. And there's a Christian bent to this as well. It's funny these days, a lot of Christians, quote unquote, are feeling that they're being come against, right? You know what I mean? But, I was a Christian. I grew up in that sphere of influence. I played drums for Jimmy Swaggart, and I taught his drummer, one of the biggest televangelists on the planet, if not the biggest, outside of maybe Billy Graham. Um, and it's hard enough to wrap your head around Jesus and who Jesus is and accept that as some kind of benefit to your life or even a thing that could exist. But it seems these days that the Christian contingent now just doesn't want you to believe in a fairy tale. They want you to believe in something like Donald Trump as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, now you've just complicated it to the ends of where people would actually be able to philosophically reason. If they can philosophically reason to God, how do you then add something that can't be philosophically reasoned upon in their acceptance of a God like Jesus or the Heavenly Father? And that ideology, I think, right now is something that is becoming extremely bothersome in our society, extremely concerning. And so you have these people that have never had to pull their bootstraps up, telling everybody else to pull their bootstraps up, and using the Bible as some kind of, I
A
don't know.
scapegoat, a way out, a
Yeah,
way
or
to validate what they're doing.
right, or
Yeah.
or a manifesto uh, for their for their what veracity of what truth is, right? Well, Jesus said this. Well, Jesus also said to treat the poor, take care of the poor and the homeless and the sick and the elderly and the child, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't say if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that wasn't it. Um, as a matter of fact, it's my contention that much of what Christ said, if he said it at all, um, is far more aligned with socialism than it is with capitalism, right? Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, because he went to the poor. I mean, he just did. We can't deny that, And he put down the tax collector, and he told the rich that, well, hey, it's easy to accept me. All you have to do is sell everything you own. And that was a challenge for the simple fact that Jesus knew how much more money meant to people than he did. Now, whether it's all a fantasy or a made up, fairy tale, I don't know. But the archetype of that is important, right? It's important that if these people believe in something like a Christ, that Christ himself would have said to the rich man, well, it's not that hard to follow me and serve me and worship me. You just have to sell everything.
Yeah.
And it says the poor or the rich man went away very dissatisfied because he knew he couldn't do it.
Hmm.
And so now we have rich Christians trying to make a case for I don't know for the all the gold and wealth that the Catholics stole, and their virtue. While we already know that these mega churches that you see all over the states, especially, right? A lot of times these churches enter very poor districts, and the district itself never changes. You look at a place like Detroit and some of the mega churches that have gone in there, and The churches are amazing, like architectural wonders worth millions of dollars. The community itself never changes. The people never get out of their poverty, but the pastor makes millions upon millions of dollars. And I think that is a sickness, that it cannot be any sort of Christ I've ever heard of or any God I ever thought I knew or assumed.
Yeah, would follow. Yeah, no.
Right? I mean, maybe the God of the Old Testament, he loved to kill himself a whole bunch of Amalekites and Jebusites and all these. I mean, he just seemed to have a warmongering wanderlust, about him. But so I say all that to say that, that may be part of the ideology as well, coming from these individuals. I don't know. It's an assumption. But it seems to me like there is an anger about having to help the less fortunate instead of a benevolence that even their God would have proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you come out of any sort of Christian background?
I was raised Roman Catholic.
Right. So a lot of Hail Marys and
Yeah.
yeah.
And knowing that you're the problem, right?
Well, that's just it too. Like the only time I ever freed myself from my bondage of blaming me for everything was when I left religion and stopped believing in that God.
Yeah.
Right? I finally came to terms with the fact that, number one, I could let God off the hook. It's not his fault. And I could also rationalize that, therefore, neither was it mine. I am responsible for my own life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny thing, right? You can blame anyone for the way you are today, but it's still your responsibility.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So you have to take responsibility, but it may not be your fault, the reason that you exist the way you exist. And you don't have to blame yourself. You can blame somebody else. I think that's perfectly rational. But you still have to maintain accountability to where you go from today. Right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I find that very interesting that getting away from that was my salvation, you know? So, do you want to keep going on with the Nixon? I know we have a little bit more.
Let's see here. So he did the poaching. Let's see here. So the fifth incident for him, April 2022, as government House Leader Nixon involved in confrontation with independent MLA Todd Lowen, directed profane language at Speaker Nathan Cooper. Lowen filed a point of privilege alleging Nixon tried to intimidate him into silence. Let's see here. And Nixon's remarks were withdrawn, apology read into the record. So he's definitely not a very kind person.
Well, we can certainly, I think, ascertain as much. Um, yeah, and so what does he mean to this transition? What is his role? What is the power that he has and holds in either its continuance or its demolition?
Well, he is, where is it here? So Nixon is the man now responsible for AISH-to-ADAP.
Okay, so that's his specific role.
Yeah.
Would he have been, maybe we don't know this, but do we know whether or not he was involved in the skeleton of the construction of this legislation?
Not 100%, because there's always so many names when it comes to legislation. I'm sure his would be on there somewhere.
Right, right. That'd be some interesting, wouldn't it? Just to
Yeah.
find out really who did the work. Yeah. Um, so we know we're dealing with a guy, let's say, that isn't his dad.
Yeah.
Right? He's a different cat. Um, okay. Uh, I'm curious if I, okay. Uh, Pam, you're in the chat. What do you think of what's going on here? What we've been talking about so far with with Mr. Nixon here? Do you think we're dealing with a totally solid, benevolent, part of our species, or not? What are your thoughts, Pam? Uh, Maybe we'll keep going. We got Daniel Smith. Do we have any more on
On
her?
Nixon, no, that's pretty much, well,
Yeah.
for Nixon, that wraps him up. But he is the, where is it here, Minister of Seniors, Community, and Social Services.
Okay, so he's the guy, really, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Pam says I emailed Jason Nixon, never got an email back.
No, it takes a long time to hear back from his office specifically.
Right, our public servant
Yeah.
on our dime, entertaining lunch before business. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pam says she also emailed Smith. So speaking of Smith, maybe let's get on to Danielle Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the basics for her, she was born April 1st, 1971. I'm going to try not to chuckle at that. In Calgary.
Mm.
Second of 5 children, and her family lived in subsidized housing.
Mm.
Which is kind of surprising, because for somebody who increased the rent for subsidized housing,
Mm-hmm.
She understands the struggle, or at least you would assume that somebody that lived in subsidized housing would have a very deep it's unbelievable that she's doing what she's doing when she lived it.
You would think that she would have an innate understanding now of what it means, but it's an interesting duality that I see all the time. I mean, I see a lot in people that come from destitution that are either still remain in it or have extricated themselves from it. There is so much judgment on either their peers or the people who suffer under the same conditions that they did. I don't know what that is. I think it comes from, it's all fear. Let's just say that. It's all fear based. And I think it comes from a lack of reckoning with who one is, like really who you intrinsically are as a human being, right? The hardest work I think in life to do is to come to terms with who you are, and even more importantly, who you're not, right? And this is where society fails. And I think it's because we are so disproportionately separated from one another that there is no accountability and there is no constant awareness of the genius of others, the struggle of others. You know what I mean? So we're the smartest people on the block because we don't talk to anybody else. So therefore we must be the smartest on the block, right? But if we were to open up and have those conversations, we might realize, oh, I'm actually the dumbest guy in the room. So we don't do that work. We assume a lot of greatness, which is a fallacy. I forget what it's called. The Dunning-Kruger effect, where you actually feel like your knowledge about a subject supersedes your actual knowledge of it. So because you have a little knowledge, it kind of makes you dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
And so just in regard to Smith, I would not doubt that it is this vitriol that comes from a denial of want and need. And, I know I was in a relationship once with somebody that her son was dealing drugs at a very young age. And, and the reason that he told her is because I'm never going to end up like you and dad. So there was this animosity of his conditions. And
Well,
I think,
that would kind of fit the profile for what's happening right now under Smith. She
Mhm.
hates us so much because she hated her upbringing. That makes sense. So instead of, dealing with the fact that and getting therapy to deal with that, it's, oh well, I'm gonna crush, almost 80,000 Canadian or Albertans under my boot.
Right. And there has to be a hatred for oneself, or at least the part of oneself that doesn't want to come to terms with your own pain, your own suffering, your own humanity, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you see yourself flying overseas on a private jet to Saudi Arabia with the king, and all of a sudden you think your shit don't stink. And obviously you did something so much more grand and grandiose than the average individual, when really, what did you do? Like
Well, the
maybe,
bar would be pretty low if she's, comparing herself to where her family was when she was growing up,
right,
because
right.
her empathy is definitely not there.
Well, it's the same thing as my dad. My dad grew up poor
Yeah.
and ended up, probably upper middle class, and yet was a highly physically and verbally abusive man. He hated poverty. He hated this whiny, contingent of the public that just didn't have their shit together. You don't know what drives a person like that, but I wouldn't say that it's all just sugar plums and lollipops. It's not just good intentions. It's
Yeah.
also this need to prove yourself at any cost. And then once you get there, you realize you're not satisfied, and then you take it out on other people.
Yeah, that's the double-edged sword. Yeah.
Isn't that nuts though?
Hmm.
That's crazy. Do you want to keep going? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She was enrolled at the University of Calgary, and she got degrees in English and economics. You would never guess
Hmm. Hmm.
that. In the late 1990s to 2009, where is it here? She was a journalist, so print, radio, and television, and a lobbyist for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, kind of all over the place.
Right. And so you wonder, how does that weave itself into how do you go from just being in school and getting a degree to a more populist stance, right? Where you're involved in this and you're involved in that. Again, that to me, that harkens unto um, what do you call it? Ambition. And
Yeah.
we've been touted for our entire lives how great ambition is. Oh, you want to be ambitious. But Socrates would have spoken as ambition as a thing to keep in check always, because your ambition can very quickly override your humanity. And I think we see this in politics everywhere now. We see that ambition rises, like, let's say, Danielle Smith's, at the expense of 80,000 suffering people, right? So your ambition means more to you than actually your job description. You want to get somewhere, you want to be bigger, big isn't big enough. You got to keep rising, you got to, right? And it never fulfills you. And I know because I was there. I walked into rooms with, I mean, I stood, with Joan Rivers and played with Joan Rivers, right? Sweet. I mean, I was in rooms where nobody thought their shit stank, and it was one of the most disgusting rooms, well, many rooms that I've ever been in, because it wasn't real. There was nothing real about it. There was just people wanting to use you for their own selfish gain. And that was the music industry. No humanity, no love, no heart. So that's, yeah,
I
bless
don't
you.
know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It almost seems like she's trying. Well, she's been running in the opposite direction of where her family came from.
Obviously, huh?
That's what it looks like. Like if her family originally lived in subsidized housing, and then all of a sudden now she's in university, right?
Yep.
And then she went into things where she likes to hear her own voice, right? I don't think she's stopped running from what her roots were, and she's really lost sight of the struggle and the surviving that comes with being on subsidized incomes.
Right, and you fall into that. He who has the most toys wins, right?
Yeah.
And kind of mentality, and that at the destruction of 80,000 people.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
quite something.
but she's financially, good now because she was elected, and we already know how much they get paid
Mhm.
to sit there and blow smoke. So, at least she found her calling, I guess. But at what cost?
Well, and you wonder, once again, right? What is the calling? The calling is to serve. So she missed her calling, but she found politics,
Yeah.
and I think that could be easily debated to anyone, and it should be debated in front of her. Yeah,
It should be.
yeah.
I think all of these politicians in Alberta right now, and some even in the federal government, should really take a step back and get that trauma uh, therapy that they obviously need, and reconnect with the people on the actual level that they need to understand what's going on and how the actual world works, because they've spent too long on their pedestals and they're
You are,
ignorant
yeah.
to it.
Well, you're so correct. And just to add to that, something I realized during COVID is that we're all fucked up. Every last one of us, no matter how much money we have, we're all in this together. We all suffered a mass psychosis, and we all became really human at that moment. And well, I think in a way, what we're trying to do is claw back pre 2020. That moment where we still thought our shit didn't stink. We're still amazing, and we're moving leaps and bounds ahead. Technology this and technology that, and I think we realized during COVID just how human we are, uh, and
But
how
we still need that connection.
that we still need it, and that we can't get away from it. And I felt like we had a chance, but I think we missed the chance, especially when the vaccine came out. I think we missed it because before the vaccine, we were all together. My neighbors were waving at me, and I had never met them in my life. They were waving across the street. We had a guy come out and do a concert on the street on top of his van. Really beautiful moment. And you really start to connect. And then the vaccine came out, and immediately people were like vaccinated, unvaccinated. And it just pulled the fibers of what was possible apart, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really think, it's funny. They say we should go see a psychiatrist. I think they should start
They
first.
won't pay for it.
Well,
They
exactly.
won't
They
pay
won't.
for
They won't pay for it.
it.
But I don't think we need it nearly as much as they do.
Yeah, no.
They've lost their humanity. If there's a beautiful thing about our community, we have our humanity intact. We know what it means to love. We know what it means to care. We know what it means to spend money wisely. We know all of these things. And we are suffering fools every day of our lives. Terrible, terrible. Sorry. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
So her political timeline, 2009, she became the leader of the Wild Rose Party. In 2012, she led Wild Rose to official opposition, so 17 seats. November 26, 2014, publicly condemned Wild Rose colleagues for crossing the floor and she stated there will be no more floor crossings. I think that would have been more of a eye opener, that maybe my colleagues weren't as aligned with my views as maybe the opposition, because they either crossed the floor because they were no longer in alignment with her, or they just needed to get as far away from her as possible.
Right. And
So that's
so
more of a reflection of how she is.
so you're saying she put in some sort of constitutive framework that wouldn't allow people to cross the floor?
It didn't specify, but she got upset that people were crossing the floor.
Oh, well,
So she was losing people like that were standing with her, and they no longer wanted to.
right.
So that would be a reflection of her priorities and what her master plan was, right? Because all of those people, they would have had behind closed doors meetings, and it kind of makes it curious as to, okay, why was she experiencing so many people leaving the UCP under her?
Well, I think that's, of course, that's the obvious real point, isn't it? Like, if if my wife leaves me, people are going to ask me, "What'd you do?" You know?
Exactly.
Right. So, but there's I think another facet which is purely the political to this, which says, because this is the ambition of the politician. Where am I going to get more bang for my buck? If it's that
Yeah.
um, there's no honor amongst thieves, right? If it's going to do me better to cross the floor, I'll cross the floor, not because I love people, but because I love myself too much, and I only want for me. So I think both of those things can be true at the same time. Uh,
Yes.
but certainly, yeah, I mean, why would you leave something if you're satisfied with it, and if the people are satisfied with it?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what makes this kind of funny. So that was November 26th, 2014. She condemned her colleagues for floor crossing, saying that there would be no more. And then December 17th, 2014, she led a mass floor crossing herself and 8 Wild Rose MLAs to the governing PCs.
Okay.
So it's like, well, we've seen that even in some of her stuff now. Like, pick a lane.
Well, there is no lane, right? Like, once again, let's talk about this because this is so important. Like, there is no honor amongst thieves. There is no
No.
adherence to an ethic or an ethos or an ideology. These people are, whatever is expedient is the moral of the day. There is no morality there. There's no sense of self in any of that. There is constant fear and change, and you don't even get to know who you are in any of that. That when we talk about this, right, like doing the hard work of understanding yourself, right, what you mean to the world, what you don't, that can't be partaken in a system that is this um, opportunistic, because your whole system of value is based on your own uh, you know self desire, what is best for me. And we know this, we've all been there, and I guess we all do it to a certain extent. Like, am I going to buy something for $1 or the same thing for 50 cents, right?
Mhm.
We do it, but when it comes to something like this that is so ethical, I think the only reason a person can get away with this is because they're allowed to. I told you
Yeah.
my dad abused me, and people always ask me, why did your dad abuse you? And I said, because he could. It's
Hmm.
very simple. So why do politicians abuse? Because they can,
Hmm.
because they're allowed to. It doesn't need to go any further than that. And that's our responsibility as people. That's why the beautiful thing that we have right now with this transition and people coming forward is just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she later admitted that negotiations with PC Premier Jim uh, Prentice had been ongoing for months while she was publicly condemning the
Right.
act. Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely couldn't make up her mind there, eh?
Well, once again, it's I don't know how to
Say
state it.
one thing to another.
it. Well, it's a fuckery of politics, right?
Yeah,
It's the magician's trick of don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing,
yeah,
and this is, I guess, how politics works, and you fall into this almost like a like a like-minded community. Like the you learn how to play the game, I guess, in the community that you exist in just by osmosis, right? You just that's your environment. And you become that. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
So it where is it here? She took 440,000 plus Wild Rose voters' representation with her uh, as, to the leader of the official opposition, joining government unprecedented in Canadian provincial or federal history. So she made a big name for herself at that point. In 2015, she was defeated in PC nomination bid and she lost her seat. I guess she's not good at musical chairs.
Mm. Right. Right.
And then 2015 to 2022, radio host and columnist. So she was definitely airing her grievances there. October 16th to 2022, she won the UCP leadership race and became Premier of Alberta. So what's funny is she condemns her colleagues for crossing the floor, then crosses the floor herself to join the PCs, and now she's back as the UPC leadership.
Right.
That's awesome. So what's she gonna prove now?
Right.
You didn't let me wreck Alberta the first time around, but I'm gonna do it this time.
Well, for sure. I mean, once again, this is just the it's the moving chessboard of politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the game, right? It's just a game of chess. It's just moving pawns back and forth. Us being the pawns, of course, the ones easily taken and usually the first. But you sacrifice that for the king. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? Uh, or for the queen, I guess, in this case. And this is it's just the chessboard. It's the moving of pieces. It doesn't have to make sense. It only has to have one outcome, and that is that it's good for them. Crazy.
Where is it here? So where is it here? The ethics commissioner finding. I don't know if you looked into that or not.
Hmm.
On May 17th, 2023, the ethics commissioner Margaret Prusser found that Premier Danielle Smith uh, con- contravened Section 3 of the Conflicts of Interest Act. This is a document and official finding, not an allegation.
Okay.
So what she was found to have done. So Section 3 breach is using ministerial office to influence decisions to further the private interests of another person.
Hmm.
Let's see here. So I'm not even going to try to say that name because I'll totally destroy it.
Hmm.
So the far right Calgary street pastor facing criminal charges under Alberta's Critical Infrastructure Defense Act related to the 2022 Coutts border blockade. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've heard about that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Um, so and
Pulowski.
then
Pulowski is his name. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna risk it.
Yeah. Good Polish boy. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Smith called Justice Minister Tyler Shandro while he was on vacation to discuss his charges. So personally called um, Pulowski and told him the charges were politically motivated and told him she contacted Crown prosecutors almost weekly to remind them cases had to be winnable and in public interest. So she was, you know, interfering there.
Yeah, was there any breach of any legal statute, any law in that?
Let's see here. Well, I know that they took her to, because of the conflicts of interest. Um, just trying to see here. Uh, on January 14th, 2023, she told reporters, "I've never called a Crown prosecutor. You're not allowed to do that as a politician. Everyone knows that." And then the recorded evidence later contradicted that statement, and she had to get a lawyer. So I guess it wasn't very good for her, because it was happening and they had evidence of it. So yeah, she got in trouble there.
Okay. For reaching out to these individuals.
Yeah,
Right.
because she had a personal interest in what was happening with the blockades.
Right. Do we know how that personal interest would have fashioned itself, what it looks like in real
No,
terms?
it was never identified publicly as to what it was that she, like, why she took a personal interest in it. Just that she was constantly calling and getting a hold of Crown prosecutors to remind them that cases had to be winnable and in the public interest.
Wow. So the actual judges?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of going beyond your, it would seem that's going beyond your office.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So trying to make sure that, what, for whatever reason, this individual that was doing the blockades got off scot-free.
yeah.
So there was definitely something there. It's just that they won't publish that publicly,
Right.
especially now that she's back in office, right?
I guess, right? You think that the media would do their job.
Oh, but the government controls media, right? So, and they don't want anybody to actually know anything that'll, defend them against whatever kind of corruption is happening in the government. Oh, come on.
There is no
That's why it's
lie.
important we do our research, right?
There is no lie detected in that statement.
Nope.
Yep. That's the truth. What else? We're dealing with Daniel here.
Where is it here? The Saudi Arabia trip. I know that you brought that up there from 2024 to 2025. She accepted a private flights and accommodation from the Saudi government during during the trip to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Only disclosed after direct questioning. So ethics rules had been previously eased to permit politicians to more easily accept gifts under official business. Rules changed by the same government and then relied on those changed rules as defense.
Right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting framing of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know. We looked into this yesterday, and I know that under the guidelines, she was. I guess they signed off on the trip and the private flight, which is all great and grand. But you got to wonder, why Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Why not Paris? Paris is beautiful this time of year. You know, why Saudi Arabia? Why Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, judging by who she's been having meetings with publicly, right? It kind of answers the why, but it's up to the individual listeners that are looking into this and kind of connecting those dots for themselves to come to those conclusions, because that's not safe for us to do on the podcast.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, everybody can come to their own conclusion, right? About, okay, well, why is the Alberta like, why is she going to Saudi Arabia? Why is she being, wined and dined? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, these are assumptions,
Yeah.
but what's the first thing you think about when you think Saudi Arabia?
Oil.
There you go. So, uh, so, so,
No
so,
time at all. Oil.
yeah. So there's obviously we at least have something in common. Let's say, right?
Yeah.
We got oil, so do they, right? Um, okay. We also know that Saudi Arabia back in the 70s made a deal with the US for the petrodollar, right? So when the US dropped the gold standard because it couldn't relay its or repay its debt, um, uh, Nixon took the US off the gold standard, and basically, as far as I know, as far as my knowledge extends, countries lost billions of dollars because he just said, well, screw it, we can't pay you, we'll just drop the gold standard. And then they did a deal with Saudi Arabia, I believe in 1974, to put Saudi Arabian oil, and all oil for that matter, more or less, ostensibly, um, into the American dollar, the petrodollar, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that anyone that bought oil had to buy it in American dollars. So that kind of saved their ass from losing it with the gold standard, right? This was their new way of being the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
And now they just go after oil no matter where it is.
well, now well, yeah, you look at Iraq,
Yeah.
you know, which has many implications. Iraq is is a strategic uh, landmass geography for the Middle East anyway, right? What we're doing in Iran right now is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, because Iran, number one, doesn't have uh, nuclear weapons, but has been 2 weeks away from them for 30 years. So
Oh, but
every
that's always been their scapegoat or their cop out excuse. Oh, the weapons of mass destruction, right? And it's like,
right,
really, that's your excuse again?
yeah, right, and I've seen some MAGAites or whatever you want to call them. I saw one post, like, well, I hope this one isn't the same as Iraq, meaning Iran and 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 the not the West Bank, but the Gaza Strip. And they said, well, I hope this isn't Iraq. And I'm like, well, what else could it be? Like, is there any other thing it could be? It's oil, it's strategic geography, it's all of
Yeah.
those things, tied into, uh, some greater Israeli plan, right? To be uh, what Kennedy called the aircrafter of the U.S. in the Middle East. That's Israel. That's their aircraft carrier. So, anyway, back to Danielle Smith. We know they have oil. We also know that a journalist named, I think, something Khashoggi in 2020, 2021, something like that, was beheaded by the forces in Saudi Arabia. So here we got Danielle Smith going over talking to, someone who's been accused of head shopping, or at least his regime has. And, did she make a deal? Didn't she make a deal? Was she there to make a deal? Wasn't she
I
there
don't
to
know.
make a
Maybe
deal?
she's moonlighting and learning how to do executions. Who knows?
Well, the thing is nobody does know. And this
Yeah.
is where democracy fails. And that is
Because
that
there's no transparency anymore.
because we don't know.
Yeah.
The people don't know. And that is not democracy. So people tell me, oh, Gavin, we live in a democracy. Bullshit. You do not live in a democracy.
No.
You live in anything from an oligarchy to a tyranny. That's where you are. Get used to it. At least get used to the truth of that, and then do something about the knowledge, right? Yeah. Knowledge, well, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, right? Knowledge, the knowledge, the knowing, understanding how it works, and wisdom, the practical application of both of those things. So, this is it's frustrating for me when people just won't accept the truth of a thing, and not my truth, People say, right, oh, well, that's your truth and I have my truth. No, no, no. There is a truth that is greater than both of us, right?
Yep.
Whether or not we know that in actual material terms doesn't matter. We know it well enough to establish it. And we're not doing that as a people. That's driving us apart, right? There is one thing to fight, and it's not the UCP, it's not the NDP, it's not the Liberals, it's your government.
Yeah.
You don't fight one party, you fight the government.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter what acronym they're behind.
Right. They're the government.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's frustrating for sure.
Oh, very much so.
Yep.
That's why I think a lot of people are hesitant when it comes to actually voting anymore, because we vote here, even in like the federal elections, and all of a sudden it's everybody down east that votes that actually gets the say in who leads the whole country, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they hold the majority of people and votes, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And then in Alberta, you vote, and it's like, okay, I'd like to see this or I'd like to see that. Well, it I don't know. It's all of our elections are pre-decided before we actually make it to the polls.
that's true, and I believe that there's something. Of course, there's something there and something that needs to be dealt with. Some sort of I don't know, gerrymandering or something. I don't know the answer to that. But here's the thing: along with our whining and complaining in Alberta, and I get it in terms of those things, Alberta is the richest province, I believe, in Canada. We have what's called a heritage fund, which is specifically for Albertan people. Right? So we go around looking at what Ottawa does, and yet what Ottawa does has no material outcome on something as grandiose, and as life changing for the for the Albertan individual than the Heritage Fund does. And that's our money. Ottawa doesn't get a chunk of that, and if it does, it pales in comparison to what it can be saved. So maybe, I mean, just to pivot quickly, just to state that we have a Heritage Fund. I have asked so many people lately, 2 of them yesterday, have you heard of the Heritage Fund? Both of them said, what's that? I'm like, holy shit, that's your fund. Yeah. They don't even when I was like, by the time I was 19, I knew we had a Heritage Fund, right? Back in the 80s, I knew we had a Heritage Fund. I didn't know all the ins and outs, but I knew it, right? People these days don't even know we have a Heritage Fund.
Nope.
So we have a Heritage Fund that sits at roughly 30 billion. And we also have another model of that in Norway. So Norway has their own heritage fund valued. Well, so let me state this. Ours is valued at $30 billion. That sounds like a lot of money. It's more money than you and I have, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But under Norway's model, and we started in the 70s putting deposits in. Norway started in the 90s. They have more people and less oil. Their heritage fund, or whatever they call it, is at 1.6 trillion. I'll say that again, 1.6 trillion. And ours is at 30 billion. They have more people and less oil. Ours is at 30 billion. Theirs is at $1.6 trillion. Their take annually on that fund is 3%, which funds all infrastructure and programming. Yeah. They don't bitch. They don't complain. Nobody's homeless. Everybody's got a dwelling. Right? And their higher taxes don't even register in terms of their basic living standard. Right? We freak out in Alberta. Oh, the taxes are too high because we hear America say that. So we chirp it back. Oh, I'll tell you what, if your life is established and set and you're safe and well taken care of, what does it matter that your taxes are being used to create a, I won't say utopian, but a greater standard of life for all people? You have less crime. People are housed. They're well fed. They're happier. They have less psychosis, less psychological problems. They are more engaged in their community, more apt to get a job. There is no argument on the other side. There simply isn't. No. And the difference between, you know, I don't think people get it. The difference between 30 billion and 1.6 trillion is about 1.6 trillion. 30 billion can't even factor into the diminishment of 1.6 trillion. We have lost that much. And you and I did some kind of calculations. They're loose calculations last night. But what was that number? Do you remember? Was it, God?
I think it was ridiculous.
It was like, yeah,
the number that we got.
1.6, wasn't it? 1.6 trillion.
I think so, yeah.
So Alberta has lost to its people, being at a 30 billion benchmark for the Heritage Fund, we have lost $1.6 trillion in that revenue since the mid-70s, which has never been accounted for. Okay, that's like the Pentagon budget. That's what the Pentagon couldn't account for. Trillions of dollars. We have lost since the 70s $1.6 trillion in Alberta taxpayer revenue. Huh? So the middle class.
And all of these taxpayers are pissed off about people receiving AISH benefits or unemployment insurance.
Well, and this is the shadow puppet side of all this, right? Is that the people who consider themselves conservative and wanting to do better or whatever have no understanding that they've been ripped off by their own government and their own system since the 70s. How does the handicap fit into that? They don't at all. Our take on that, even at 30 billion, our take is 1.6 billion a year. That still leaves, if at 3%, that leaves, I believe, 9 billion, or maybe that's at a graduated amount. It's not at the 30 billion mark, but it's less than 1.6 trillion, right?
Yeah.
Which means that there's still $9 billion if the government would have done its job. There is 9 billion, ostensibly, approximately, 9 billion a year for all other things. For the taxpayer, for cuts in taxes, for the Green Line in Calgary, which started and cost millions, and then they shut it the fuck down. The money was always there. The fuckery was always there too, and that's what happened to us. We got screwed, and we went, oh, we've got such bad government, and that's all we did. And then we said, what's for lunch? That's our sickness right there. That's our sickness. Yeah. Sorry, I had to go off on that. That's
no worries. No, it's kind of funny. Like like just looking at my own family background, grandparents, their government outlook was always, well, you don't question the people that run the show, right? You just kind of go with it, and that takes from their own backgrounds where you didn't question authority figures, right? So we came from a generation where people didn't ask questions. People didn't have the testicular fortitude to ask those questions or the intelligence to know what to ask in the first place. And then our parents, well, for mine anyways, she was military, and it was always, well, you have to vote because that's why, I was military, and that's why our people fought for freedom and this and that and the other. And it's like, well, when you actually get to the age of being able to vote and whatnot, there is so much that you have to take into consideration, right? They have a public facing agenda that they will share openly, but you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So it's like, who do you vote for, and who is the lesser of the evils that you have to choose from?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it comes down to, right? The lesser of two evils. And when are we going to stop that shit?
Yeah.
I mean, if we stop voting today, if Canada stopped voting today, and people say, well, you can't do that because the same assholes will stay in power. Yes, they
Yeah.
will. That's very true. But
If
it
they're
will,
meant to stay in power, they're going to anyway.
well, that's true. But here's the thing is that even while they're reveling in what they consider their victory, which isn't, but we'll say it is, what is happening is um, it will scare the shit out of every other party to ask the question, holy shit, why did nobody vote?
Yeah.
What's happening with the people now? And that is our power. Because if we stop voting, we can take on that government that feels fortunate to have what they have because we stayed the vote. And our parents' generation is a very interesting thing. It is an absolute truth that our fathers and our forefathers fought valiantly to their death on our behalf, right? We are coming to, if you want to call it a fourth turning or the eye of a needle or the event horizon, whatever you want to call it, we are coming to that moment again, right? We haven't had a
Yeah.
war in about 80 years, and the fourth turning equates to about 80 years, right? It's the good men create good times, good times create weak men create bad times create strong men and
Yeah.
women, of course, right? That's the kind of turning, right? The cycle, right? And so that's what we're up against it again. Whether or not we'll fight, and I think it's, what you're going to get, like, a millennial to go fight a fucking war. No,
Yeah.
he's
Right.
too busy playing video games and, you know, selling Bitcoin.
Identifying as a cat.
Exactly, right? Right? And yeah, unless you give him that transition medication, he ain't doing nothing for you. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, what do they expect? What's going to happen? Well, then it has to boil down to a war without people, right? And that's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty scary prospect. But we are coming up against it again, and that's why we now have to fight. So, I wonder if our parents now wouldn't say, well, maybe you have a point. I don't know. I know my mom wouldn't say that. She'd say, "Oh dear, just be quiet now.
Mm-hmm.
Your government's bad,
Be submissive.
right? Like,
Yeah.
be a good boy, Gavin." You know,
I'd ask mine, but her opinion has absolutely no sway with me, and that's why we're no contact. So have fun with that.
well, that, and once again, we're seeing the stripping of the family, right? We're seeing the stripping of that. I haven't talked to my mom in 4 years. She won't talk to me because I want to fight my government, and she wants me to shut up, and that's it. And we haven't talked in 4 years. So,
Well,
um,
that's her loss.
well, it is, but to me, it's just a sadness of what we are observing globally right now. We're observing fracture of all kinds, and we need to know. We need to get smart about this. This is not about us fighting. It is about a government. Um, what would you call it? Psy-opting our space and causing division.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And once we realize that, we'll realize that it's not the UCP, it's not the NDP, it's not the Liberals, it's not the rhinos, it's government.
Yeah.
Your government just isn't that into you.
Yeah, and that's that book that you were talking about the other night.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore's book. Right? I haven't read it yet, but it's a great title.
Yeah.
Your government is just not that into you. And how fucking true that is, and how we need to get that into our psyche, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to go on, that's great. But such a good conversation, you know.
Hmm. All right. So where is it here? Uh, So for Danielle Smith here, judicial appointments interference. So Smith sent a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney threatening to withhold provincial funding for new judicial appointments unless Canada received more say in selecting judges. Legal scholars described this as continually problematic or constitutionally problematic.
Yeah. 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 Sorry, I'm just reading some comments here. I wonder if a guy has a point here or not. This James. So let's see. Their funds were built from a surplus of funds, though. Their funds. You meaning Ottawa's funds? Is that what he's talking about? The national fund? Carney's BS is maxing out the credit card and calling it an investment somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. I mean, but we're heading to globalism whether you like it or not. we're headed there anyway. So whether it's Carney or Donald fucking Trump, we're going there. And it's not whether it's not the whole thing about globalism is whose terms do you want it to be on? Donald Trump's or any government or your terms?
Yeah.
And this is what our forefathers fought for. For Christ's sake, this is what the fight was all about. It was about our terms, right? We're not going to allow this Nazi ideology to take over, right? That was the fight then. The fight is a different fight now. It's technocratic, it's technological, right? It's ideological, right? Yeah. And so, you know, if Carney wants to spend what Carney wants to spend, that is immaterial to what we possess and to what our politicians, not Carney, our politicians have done to grape the coffers of the Alberta purse. You can't extend that to Carney. He's got other faults and other considerations, but it is our Alberta government that since the 70s has ensured that we're not going to get the money we deserve. Now get your head around that, and you can take on Ottawa for what it's responsible for, but you shouldn't dare pass that off to who they are, to where their responsibility does not lie. Because by subverting that understanding, you're never going to win any battle. Sorry, I makes me a little, you know?
It makes you a little hot under the collar.
It kind of does. So let me
with the research that you've done with regards to the Heritage Fund and stuff like that, yeah. I think everybody needs to get a little bit warmer when it comes to that, because the money is there. It's always been there, but it's not going towards what it was meant to go towards. Mm-hmm. It's not helping the people. It's not helping supports. It's not really doing much for infrastructure. And there's money out, like lots of money out of there that they're just not accounting for. And that they're not posting to be transparent as to where it's going.
$1.6 trillion.
Yeah.
And that's not Ottawa that did that. That's us.
Here. That's our provincial government.
Right. And I believe, if my math is correct, and I can be challenged on this because I'm not 100%, but I believe that at $1.6 trillion, every Albertan at a 3% take of the Heritage Fund per year would be eligible for, or just getting, $8,750 a month. A year, sorry. $8,750 a year. It is not Ottawa that did that. It's your Alberta government, UCP, NDP, and Liberal that did it. It's the government. Get that right. You're not going to argue for something somebody else may be complicit for somewhere, but is not complicit for where your government is. Stop loving your government. They don't love you. All right.
Like, I think the federal government should have some kind of accountability for what's happening in Alberta and every other province, because they're supposed to be the head of the snake, right?
Who's supposed to be the head of the snake? Sorry.
Our federal government,
Well, of course, right?
because they're higher than the provincial government. So
Well,
who answers when Alberta steps out of line? Who answers when BC steps out of line? Nobody's making anybody accountable for anything, and that's what the problem is.
right, right. Well, that's just it, right? The whole system is unaccountable.
Yeah.
And that is what we need to understand. I mean, we just need to know it. Sorry, I just need to. We froze.
Okay.
So I just need to ask the question why and how to deal with we froze. Yes. I just want to make sure we're.
Well, at least the audio is still working.
Yeah, no, and you and I are talking just fine. Click stop streaming. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stop streaming. I'm gonna say no. Okay, so we're still frozen. Shit. Let me ask Pam. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yep.
Pam, David, are we froze? Yeah, I get a little hot, when people come in and say, "Oh, it's Ottawa." No, it's not. It's not Ottawa. This is not. You can blame them for a shitload, but you can't blame them for this. It has nothing to do with them.
Yeah. So video's still down, but audio is working.
Okay, let me just. Okay, I'm going to troubleshoot that. So the audio is still working. That's great.
It's just that the video portion.
Okay, that'll be nice to everybody in the chat. But I want to get the stream up. So give me a second. You can hear me talking. I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Answer yes. Okay, let me do this. So I'm going to answer yes. Let me see what else it said. It will, but your scheduled stream link stays the same. What it actually means. It will end the current connection, but your scheduled stream and link stay the same. Click yes, wait 2 seconds. Okay. Go to YouTube on YouTube. Preview will come back, then go live again. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you if this is going to work. Oh my God. But just give me a second. I want to make sure I understand. Preview will come back, then click go live again. Okay. So wait 2 seconds. Click start. Okay. All right.